And it was quite fortuitous, well, fortuitous in a sense, that Anne read a poem earlier that had John Lennon in it. And I mentioned John Lennon, of course, in that second poem of mine earlier on. I am and I was a huge fan of John Lennon. Now, this poem here, I wrote actually only about a year ago. It rose from a workshop with an Irish friend of ours, Professor Derek Quay, when he was over here. And he presented us with a poem by the poet Peter Sansom. And the poem of Peter Sansom's was called "A Dream Mistaking a Person for What He Has Come to Represent." And his particular poem, I couldn't find it, I was trying to find it on the net the other day to remind myself. But basically his poem was about the poet Ted Hughes coming down into this poet's small kitchen. You know, Ted Hughes was a huge, huge bloke, and he comes in with his own frying pan to fry himself some fish in Peter Sansom's kitchen. Well, that was all a dream. So this is my version, not my version, but this is the poem that was inspired by that. And it's called "How a Dead Beatle Can Cause a Quiet Revolution in Your Backyard." I'm out the back digging myself some spuds, or dinner will be now to shout out about, when John Lennon rock and rolls down the garden path, guitar on his back, hair down to his knee, Karl Marx beard down to his belly button, and wearing his, you know, John Lennon glasses, telling me I'm not going about things the right way, and how he's going to start a revolution, maybe number 10, right now and here in my back garden, because he's found a whole new way to grow. He's scrabbling around in the soil, dirt under his nails, guitar slipping off his back into the good earth. And he tells me his Aunt Mimi had an allotment, as if that is some kind of qualification. I ask him if he knows how many spuds it takes to fill the Albert Hall. "Semolina Pilchards," he says, "climbing up the Eiffel Tower." Then mutters something about looking through the bent-back tulips to see how the other half live. I say, "The tulips are long gone now, John. Let's get back to me spuds. And don't give me no shit about glass onions in strawberry fields, all right, John? It's all real down here in me potato patch." John starts wailing. "My mother was of the sky. My father was of the earth. I am of the universe, and you know what it's worth. I'm lonely. I want to die." I say, "Hold on, John, hold on. It's going to be all right." I feel like that myself sometimes. We all do. It's in the nature of being human. Us artists, we're sensitive folk. "Well, Dave," says John, "why are you growing only spuds? There are other vegetables, you know." "It's all I eat at all," I say, like in that dark brown Van Gogh masterpiece. John croons, "Because the sky is blue, it makes me cry." "Yeah, I know, John. It gets me that way too," I sob. John tells me he wants me to grow other things. Carrots, runner beans, cabbage, strawberries. "Look, John, no one I know is in my tree, be it high or low. Spuds are so versatile. You can roast them, chip them, mash them, bake them, and the sweet aroma of earth as those dug spuds emerge. I tell him straight, nothing's gonna change my world. Nothing's gonna change my world." "All I am saying," argues John, quite calmly, hitching up his guitar and rubbing the dirt off those, you know, John Lennon glasses. "All I am saying is give peas a chance." Corny, maybe, but good fun to write. Right. Now, this next one I have read before here, but some of you didn't hear it on that occasion, and somebody here also kind of requested it. So it's called "Nightmare on Quay Street." Quay Street up here, and Well, it's all about climate change, I guess, really, ultimately. Sort of. Nightmare on Quay Street. It is October the 18th, 2025, when the first unusually large numbers of gruesome gastropods are seen emerging from the drains on Bridge Street, Cardigan, and out of the Teiby River itself after 60 days and 60 nights of unceasing rain that has finally stopped and the floodwater started to recede. The skies stubbornly lay their leaden lid on the town. The forecast is gloomy, and a stench of fungus pervades the air. The ugly slugs crawl slimily towards High Street and Quay Street, over the sandbags in shop doorways and into shops, mutinously munching their merry mollusk way through anything and everything: clothes, paper bags, loaves of bread, Perlwen cheeses, lamb chops, pork chops, lampshades, carpets. They slide seditiously into the Castle Cafe and downstairs into the Cellar Bar, even removing tops from beer bottles and slipping slurpily inside, defying the organic gardeners who claim that beer traps drown their slithering enemy. "Fucking hell!" gasps Jeeb Screenwalsh as more mollusk monsters emerge from the toilets and urinals and strip the posters off the walls and the books off the shelves. Soon they are slobbering their slick way up sink waste pipes and through plug holes up and down the streets into mouldy flats where they rasp over breadboards, chopping boards, inside cupboards, and even inside tea and coffee mugs, ejaculating gobs of snot-like slime on their rims for drinkers to get stuck to their lips. Castle Cafe and Cellar Bar owner Jeeves calls the local council to account, telling them, "This is hideous hermaphrodite hell in here. I've got murderous-looking mollusks sucking coffee out of me customers' cups as they sit there, and me cake cabinet is empty, and the glass all covered with snotty slime. And downstairs in the cellar, they've eaten the covers off at least 50 of me best vinyl LPs. Me blues and punk collections have nearly disappeared. Not only that, I've got me monthly poetry gang, the Yellow Nerds, performing next Friday. And they won't want to be wading knee-deep in slug slime to get in here. Now get your blooming lazy arses down here right now, you bunch of useless bar stewards, and do something sensible, or you'll have the blues and all." A few brave council workers slip slowly into action and are soon stamping up and down on the menacing mollusks, but cannot keep up and are sadly squelching around in a sea of slug slime. A convoy of police cars arrives and slowly slides its slapdash slipshod way along the streets, striving to exterminate the astonishing steady stream of stealthy gastropods. But the squad has to admit at last that they are on a very sticky wicket. So the council calls in Jock McJockles with his huge road roller after negotiating an outrageous fee with him. By the time he turns up, a little squiffy, it must be said, the horrible heaving horde of hermaphrodites has taken the Guildhall and St. Mary's Street and is surrounding the castle walls, and one squalid lot has slid into the back of the Barramenin bakery. Now Jock is no squeamish slouch, and is soon squirting and squishing his way down High Street to the sound of squealing, freewheeling slugs being squashed. Meanwhile, thick ropes of muscular mucus dangle and spin promiscuously from shop signs, window ledges, wooden benches and hanging basket brackets, as salacious slugs of many species exchange sexual fluids in a gargantuan, orgasmic orgy of gastropodic delight, and breed at high speed to replace their squashed comrades. Jock McJockles' giant road roller enters Pendray, but is instantly assailed by squadrons of indefatigable slugs that climb up the side of the rollers, rolling round and all over Jock's cab. A dozen leopard slugs rasp their way up Jock's legs and under his kilt as Jock utters unintelligible Gaelic imprecations and squirms uncomfortably in his sweaty seat. His huge hairy hands go under his kilt to remove the vile creatures, but their reinforcements are far too much for him. He stops his machine and climbs down, shouting, "Och, they've scraped the bristles off me scrotum." He bends over, lifting his kilt to inspect the damage. And the few brave pedestrians trying to get on with their daily shopping cover their children's eyes and look away in horror themselves. Jock McJockles, once a crack commander with the SAS, which is no for posses nor wusses, I'll have you know, and now retired, admits defeat and says, I canna have my scrotum scraped by marauding mollusks, even if they did spare my sporran. And I'll no be telling you what I keep in my sporran either. No, not at any price. Only one option now remains for the council leaders. And very soon helicopters are hovering over the Grosvenor pub. And then one by one they hurtle down Quay Street and High Street and onto Pendray, dropping tons of bright blue slug pellets to the sound of Wagner's The Ride of the Valkyries. The first pilot is shouting over the intercom to his fellow pest exterminators, I love the smell of slug pellets first thing in the afternoon. They smell of victory. Oh dear, little does he know. This riotous race of grievous, greedy gastropods is immune to any human-manufactured toxin, and the human race just has not learned anything valuable from its dealings with other species, still holding fast to its belief in its own total dominion over the earth. The merry mollusks ignore the poisonous pellets, now centimetres deep in the streets, and which end up washed down the drains and into the Tavy River and on into the sea. And here's the thing. Overnight, a night in which the temperature does not drop below 40 degrees centigrade, the whole slimy army slips silently into the dark cracks and crevasses below walls, between paving slabs, or back into the drains from which they came, except for a few especially large, brown and black, extra sticky, striped mollusk monsters, which are finishing off the last rare rock and blues albums covers in Jeeves Screenwalsh's Cellar Bar. They are crawling up inside Memphis Slim's Messing About with the Blues and Fleetwood Mac's Black Magic Woman albums, slowly, slothfully slavering over their last delicacy before slinking slumberously into the early morning light. Who can say just when they will return? And who can say whether Jeeves Screenwalsh will ever sell any more classic Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath albums? Oh, sod it, he sighs. I suppose I can start selling second-hand tools or steel cabinets or something. But it just won't be the same. Damn those blooming slugs.